lot, I don't know where they're coming from, but a lot of people seem to enjoy that too.
Yeah, we're actually doing pretty well. With the limited time, hours of operation that we have, which speaks to the noise. When they got slots, there was 23 or 24 provisos that we have to follow. And one of them is we close at midnight because there was concerns.
You know, I've never known if it's 24 hours or not. Okay, is that right? You close at
We
midnight?
have to close at midnight. We open at 9 on Monday through Saturday and 10 on Sunday.
Well, those are banker's hours.
Yeah. So working in the casino industry as long as I have, it's like, it took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah,
And I'm used to
that's
getting
what
calls
we
at 2
started.
a.m. It's like,
Right.
I get the final numbers at 12:05 and I'm like,
Okay.
So,
Is that your background, the game casino side?
my background is the casino industry, been in it I did propane industry for a little bit out of college, but I moved over to casinos pretty early in my career. I enjoy it, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, obviously, but it's just something that really intrigued me, and New Orleans intrigues me. I love New Orleans, and I was working at
Where are you from originally?
Grew up in Kansas City, just north of Kansas City, Missouri, in a small town
Okay.
called Bethany, Missouri.
Okay,
So
so I have an uncle that's in Kansas
The
City.
graduating class was like, I think 82 people.
Oh,
It
okay.
was it was a small town. Wouldn't trade it though. I mean,
Well, it kept you out of trouble. Everybody knew everything everybody else was doing, so.
yeah, they did. Well, kind
You
of like
didn't
New
email
Orleans.
problem in a town that size, yeah.
Kind of like New Orleans.
Right.
But I really do like it here, and Harris was going, well, Caesars now, but they were going to move me again, and I just so happened to, Churchill Downs started to recruit me about the same time, so I got an offer the same day from Harris to go up and be the assistant general manager at a property outside Louisville, Kentucky, and Churchill Downs then said, we want you to run the fairgrounds, which is ultimately what I wanted to do, is I wanted to run.
Oh, that's right.
And
So how many years have you been here now, Tim?
going on, it's 6 years.
Oh, okay.
6 years. I've been at the fairgrounds since May 2010,
Okay.
and I came down in May of 2006.
So right after the storm.
Yeah, Harris was having a hard time getting recruiting. I came down as vice president of finance administration, and then about a year into it, they moved me over to vice president of operations.
Oh, okay.
And then the person that took my role left, and then they had me become the vice president of operations and finance. I didn't get a pay increase for that.
Just the honor. The honor
letters at the end of
the honor of being able to make a larger contribution. I've had that discussion with many people over the years, yeah.
But, one thing, obviously, the fairgrounds has a mutual interest. I know that was the topic of
Well, exactly right. And,
mutual interest.
I told
But is it paramutual?
Jim this.
What's
We're gonna,
But is it paramutual?
Wait, she's gonna be here with us all
Yeah,
night.
we're the room show.
That's right. So we're going to put a little of this on YouTube, just as we'll put it on our website and put it on Facebook. And so, you never know whether there's 50 people here or 15, or in this case 4. And if somebody comes in, we'll let them play. But whatever you have to say, we'll get the word out there. I mean,
All right.
well,
Well,
at one point, Jim and I said, well, this really works. We'll do it every year. We'll debate it next year. And I definitely won't make you do it in November, the week of Thanksgiving, because this is probably not the most propitious time. Although at the time, we thought, what a
Well,
great
so
idea.
yeah, we'd be
What
able
a
to tell
great
everybody
idea.
what's happening.
maybe if we do it, maybe the month before.
Could be, because,
It's like we're on top of it.
well, and
news is out about the infield festival that we're having, and so it might be maybe a little bit, maybe a month or two ahead of time.
well, and, believe me, what you see downstairs is people studying for exams. That's all students here. Usually we've had some good nights here recently, so I was surprised when I walked in. The place was even full.
Yeah, if you book us as an act, I don't expect to be invited back. If you were charging admission, we wouldn't be back.
I'm helping carry weight here too, though, guys. So,
Well, I'll just kind of go
Yeah, let's just go ahead
through
and
some main points.
Take it live, absolutely,
And,
appreciate it.
you know, I guess the main thing is we do appreciate you reaching out, Wade, and providing us an opportunity to come here and talk with anybody that was willing to speak with us tonight.
Well, as I told Jim, look, y'all are a huge institution in this community, so at least those of us here all recognize that. So we're honored to have you, and look forward to what you have to say.
Yeah, and you know, you probably, were you aware of what this was before it became the fairgrounds?
I've heard so many stories, and you know, one or two of them might even be true. Hey, how are you?
Did you hear about Daisy Mays?
You know, I don't know any of the names. I know I've heard it used to be a bar, it used to be a bookie parlor, it looks like. There are we found phone connections everywhere in the front. And what was Daisy Mays? Or?
Well, it was a pretty interesting
House of repute.
yeah, I think Miss Daisy was
Popular in the community?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lady of the evening, maybe.
That's how I'll put it.
Kind of
Popular around this time. Gotcha.
So, but no, very interesting. As any place in New Orleans has a great history to it, but I know that Fairgrounds has been around for quite some time too, since 19.
We've run it a year, and then it was going with the previous owners for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I think had a lifetime as some kind of a coffee house before that, but as Fairgrounds,
True Brew.
True Brew.
True Brew.
Yeah.
So, all right.
But a lot of people from
But-
the,
Social justice component,
So what?
did it always have the social justice?
When the previous owners brought fair trade in, and we've taken that fair trade commitment, which is about social justice, and pushed it a little bit farther, operating as sort of a nonprofit and community space. But, so it's got a good tradition.
Yeah.
We figured out a way, I mean, over the years, we looked at the history probably, we're figuring out a way to make less and less money out of it every year. So we're doing more good, probably for less dollars, but it's a great place, and away we go.
Well,
We've all introduced ourselves. This is a small group, so you might as well introduce yourself too.
Sure. I'm Alicia Johnson. I'm a local resident. I also work with, like you said, Hughes Academy, which is a school right behind.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
great,
got the-
great.
the Carter Neighbor Garden there, so, yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm Tim Bryan. I'm the president of the Fairgrounds,
Nice to meet
and
you.
this is
Jim Waldenham, I'm the PR guy at the fairgrounds.
Great.
Very good. He's got to follow me all over just in case I say something wrong, and then he can correct me right away. So no, but
You, Mr. Rush?
Wade Rathke, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And I'm with Fairgrounds. This is Beth Butler with A Community Voice, which is
Hello.
a community organization here in town. And she got drafted to him with a camera. We put this on YouTube, so they'll think that there's 5,000 people here.
Excellent. I probably should move closer.
but you know, again, I was we just kicked off before you
Yeah.
came in, Alicia. So you know, it's good to be here. It's nice to get the invitation from Wade to come here and have a conversation with whoever wanted to join us this evening. And the topic is, you know, the mutual interest of the 2012-2013 race meet. And obviously, as the fairgrounds, we view it's mutually beneficial. A lot of things are mutually beneficial in having a vibrant community surrounding us. And all the issues that are going on within the community now, where it be, you know, if roads need to be paved, we want them paved. If the crime's bad, we want to fix the crime. Now, we do have, in a specific area, we do have, as part of the covenants, in order to get slots, we have to provide 24 hours security in a specific area. And it's called the Fairgrounds Patrol. And NOPD actually does it. And we have 2 officers 24/7 that go, I don't know the exact boundaries, but it kind of goes down Gentilly, over to Desay, over to, I think it ends at Ursuline. It might
Not
be,
that far.
yeah, it's a close knit. We have part of the Fairgrounds Triangle Neighborhood Association, so it goes beyond Gentilly. I think it ends at I don't know I don't want to say anything that's incorrect, so.
But it comes over in this area as
It
well?
it covers, the Faubourg St. John area, Fairgrounds Triangle, and the Desailly neighborhood as well. And,
So it's over towards Lansing Hughes and,
yes,
Yeah.
Langston Hughes is covered within
okay.
that fairground, the Fairgrounds Patrol. But, you know, again, like I said, is if the neighborhoods that surround us are vibrant, then it only helps our business. We want to be a good, business, community leader and do the right things. And we help out each of the 3 neighborhood associations that surround us in many different fronts. But obviously, this Thursday we kick off our 141st thoroughbred season, correct?
Correct.
That's the 100th Louisiana Derby this year.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of, like you said, a lot of history. Fairgrounds has been an institution.
Almost everybody in the city has lost money over there. A lot of shared history.
Whether it be horse racing or slots, right?
Yeah.
Again, and it kicks off. We're very excited about the 141st season. We have Starlight events, which are Friday night Starlight events, and we're having 7 of them this year. And the reason we're doing 7, we've increased from 6. We don't want to do it every Friday because it might lose some of its luster, and so we want to kind of create some demand for it. So, and then this year, with everything that's going on in the city, with Mardi Gras, Super Bowl, and all that, we've kind of split it up where we could within the calendar. And
So what is the Starlight event?
it's Friday night racing. We have live music in the clubhouse. We have you can take one of these schedules with you.
Okay, good.
But we have the actually, I'm just going to open this up. We have
We'll give the rest of them.
Yeah, please do.
December 28th. We decided we're going to try one. We've tried some Starlight nights in the past in December, and it hasn't done that good for us. I mean, the time of year with the holidays and whatnot, but
Yeah,
we
that's
figured
right.
do it between Christmas and New Year's and see if we can't draw some attention. And we have like Category 6 is the band that's playing. We have a DJ in the Miller Light beer tent. So we have this very eclectic crowd. You got all kinds of folks that show up, where you have the traditional horse racing guests that will be up to clubhouse listening to live music, and then we bring in a younger crowd at the Miller Beer Tent. And it's picked up some momentum over the years that we've been doing it, and it's something that again, I'm not going to speak for the entire neighborhood, but there's several people that live in the neighborhood that enjoy going to the event because it's something that is just a little more upbeat in the Miller Beer Tent, and it's actually much more upbeat in the clubhouse with some of the bands, Category 6, Chi Whiz, Karma, Groovy, the Mixed Nuts, Bucktown All Stars, and the Top Cats. And so some very popular local bands that draw a crowd in their own, and we're just hopping. It's got a really good vibe to it. So that's what Starlight Racing has become, and we built some momentum, and so we wrap things up by 10 o'clock at night, so we're not going into the wee hours of the morning, and that's part of what we want. We don't want to be a nuisance to the neighborhood, so we have that going on, and then that leads us into being the 100th Derby this year. We wanted to do something special, and so we decided to do. The only way we could grow the Derby is if we went beyond the physical plant that we have on the outskirts of the track. So we had to go into the infield, and there's many tracks that have infield activities during their races. Kentucky Derby being one. All 3 of the Triple Crown have some type of activity in the infield. So we decided to kind of adopt some of the things. We're not going to be a Kentucky Derby, but we wanted to grow it and expand it and reach out to some people that may not typically come to the Louisiana Derby itself. So we're creating an infield festival that we announced last Tuesday. Actually, it was a week ago today. And Mark Romig has really been over the Norlands Marketing and Tourism Corporation, has been a great help to us. All the city, we've included the city officials and because we're going to be running the same day as Crescent City Classic, which is the first time that that's happened. So in order to make it work, running the Louisiana Derby the same day, is Crescent City Crescent City Classic has agreed to start their race a little earlier, and we're going to start our races a little later. So our post time is typically 12 or 12:30.
Because their route goes into City Park, right?
It does. It comes, I think it
Right
comes
down
down
Esplanade,
Esplanade.
yeah.
So in order to alleviate any traffic congestion, they're going to start earlier, their race a half hour earlier. We're going to start our post time at 2 o'clock instead of the traditional 12 or 12:30.
Oh, okay.
And then that way, the city is committed and the sheriff's office is committed to making sure that they sweep the streets in quick order so it doesn't create much congestion in the neighborhood. But
Well, that's good to know. Those will be busy times for all
Yeah.
of us. I think.
It's going to be a really busy day. And
We got caught by one of those races last year, what did we know? I don't know if it was Crescent, but I guess, all of a sudden, the race must have ended somewhere near here, and if it moved and you could eat it, it was gone. I mean, we opened up Monday with everything, just every shelf was empty. I thought they were running. What were they? Obviously, it must have ended here, and they were starved or whatever, so it was just like, locusts had come through, so.
Yeah.
There's one other one that comes through the neighborhood, the marathon.
And that may have been it. I don't know, I don't know,
You know,
like I said, we were
the-
caught so unaware, sort of like,
Yeah.
because
we'd
we'd always heard the opposite. Oh, this goddamn blah, 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 there's a race, nobody can get in. Well, that wasn't what we found.
I'm not sure the exact route, but Susan G. Coleman is here. I think they passed through Spover St. John partially.
A lot of them sort of nick Esplanade at some
Yeah.
point, so yeah, that may
They
be
carry
one too.
Esplanade right into City Park.
And Coleman used to be all in the park, but I never, it was a 5K, wasn't it? 10K, I don't know.
But again, so we're going to have, we're doing a couple things in the infield. One, we're bringing as many food trucks as we can possibly get in the infield. We did a street fair derby, which we had about 15. Local food vendors with food trucks, or they just set up shop under an awning.
They've been getting a lot of publicity here recently. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's the
Yeah, it's
same
become a big
crew.
thing.
Yeah. And
Some of their food is excellent. I mean,
It
we had
is.
the empanada guy, we used to
It
have
is.
their empanadas here, which
Yeah,
were
we've had
good.
it, he's great.
They had the Oak, the Po' Boy Festival on Oak. And
Right.
they had several of those food trucks there. The food's excellent. And, there's other communities that the food trucks are more prevalent. And it'd be nice if, I don't see a problem with it. There might be some that don't want a bunch of food trucks around, but we embrace it. We're inviting them to our infield, so, we're hoping to get at least 20 food trucks and have the most food trucks at any single event that Norlands has ever had. That's what we're
And
shooting.
when will that be?
That's March 30th.
March
That's the Derby Day that we have the infield festival. We also have Cowboy Mouth that's going to be playing for a couple hours. Probably immediately following the Louisiana Derby is when we're going to time it. And then that way we'll have live horse racing going on at the same time, but it creates another hook, if you will, for bringing in. Something that the horsemen have grown to appreciate is us trying these, novelty events or whatever you want to call it, to bring
Whatever it takes to get
other
the crowd,
people
yeah.
in. And the hope is, like Starlight Racing, we clearly, it's not a huge percentage that come there and say, okay, and end up showing up more often, and they come here, but there is a small percentage that once they witness horse racing, and once they went down the program and said, I like that name, and they picked that horse and they won, they come out on a Saturday, and they come out on a Thursday afternoon. And so we're trying to bring attention to horse racing. So it serves multiple purposes for it, but the horsemen have grown to appreciate it. In September, we had, actually it was August, I take that back. In August, we had camel and ostrich racing, and it was crazy. The weather was bad.
No, but that I might have gone to see.
August 18th, we had, and the weather was bad. And I remember.
Which means it was typical August 18th weather in New Orleans.
it had rained all day.
Now I feel sorry for the Campbells.
It was an interesting experience, and just to see the crowd, I actually had to have the folks stop letting pedestrian and vehicular traffic into the facility. It was that busy. So we had jammed. It's one of those things, and we kind of leveled out the traffic outside the fairgrounds, but it was we don't track our attendance that well. And we let kids in 12 and younger in free, and we had a lot of kids at that. We had the camel race, the ostrich race. We had a mascot race with the local mascots.
Now, were people riding the ostriches?
Yes.
Wow.
We had jockeys ride the ostriches. It was
Wow.
and people. We had local celebrities ride the camels, which
Wow.
made
I
some.
bet that was hilarious.
I mean, these ostriches, the professional jockeys, they just jump on and ride them bareback. It's the craziest thing you've ever seen. They don't need a saddle or anything. They just get on and
There they go.
grab some feathers and take off.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Nobody
They just
fell
figured-
off or anything?
Not with the ostriches.
Now the
no.
ostriches. The camel was a little different story.
I would love to see that. Is
Yeah,
that on YouTube?
We do that again. Let's go to that one.
We actually, we did multiple things that night too. We found out that camels and ostriches can stand on their own. We had a beer tasting on the 4th floor. So we didn't maximize the ability to draw the crowd in for the camels and ostriches because we were limited to about 850 to 900 on the 4th and 5th floor. Well, traditionally, we can get probably 2,000 easy between those two, and especially if you use the suites, you're looking at probably getting well over 2,000 people up there. So we kind of limited the use of that space, and the apron, the bleachers on the outside, the grandstand on the inside was completely full. It was crazy.
Wow.
And the paddock area was packed full of people. They had a great time. Amazing because we ran the ostrich race at 7 o'clock. There were people that showed up, and we had some lines, which we'll learn from this and be better next time. But we had people that showed up and said that the ostriches ran, and we're like, yeah, it just went off, and they turned around and left. It's like, and then we had some people that came to the beer tasting, and the beer tasting was sold out, and they waited in line, and we said, we're sorry, we're all, and they said, oh, you're out? Okay, and they just left. And we're like, wait a second, we have camels and ostriches racing later, because we'd sold out of the beer tasting before any of the races went off. It's like, nah, I just came here for the beer tasting. And so it was really amazing. So it told us that we can separate that event. So we'll have another beer tasting at the fairgrounds. We've had some success. We partner with Dornax and do a wine tasting each month. And we draw probably anywhere from, on a slow night, 80 people, on a busy night, 150. Our champagne tastings draw anywhere from 300 to 400. And we just recently
Can
had
you do
one.
that on the nights you're not racing, or on the same nights?
Well, we definitely do it when it's not, when we're not racing. And then during the racing, I don't know if we can do it on a night that we have racing, because racing's done by 5:30.
Right.
And these
Sure,
things start at
sure.
6 o'clock.
Right.
So, but we've picked up some momentum there. There's the lot of familiar faces that come each time, and it's a great deal. $25, and Butch from Dornax brings at least 30 different wines to taste. It's a great deal, and our chef puts together some just finger food. So he puts cheese plates together and some metaphors, and so it's a cool event. well worth 25 bucks. I can't participate that much, but, you know, if I get a chance, I do, but.
It's important to keep a job, if you got one, so yeah.
So, but again, so
So
we're,
you're trying to do as many things as you can to get people in there and make
Yeah.
the place exciting, that's good.
well, it's, you know,
Because there's a smaller crowd generally for just the horse part over the last number of years, is that true?
yeah, it has, it's dry, and this isn't just our.
No, it's everywhere from what, you know, you read.
Yeah, there's
I don't know what accounts for that, but I guess it's just, you know, part of what happens.
well, I think what, the challenge that horse racing has, you know, 30 years ago, it wasn't competing with some of these other,
Right.
you know, activities that people have access to. You know, you didn't, you know, the Hornets weren't here, that's one thing. You didn't have casino gaming at the time. So it was kind of a, you know, it held its own and was the king of sports for quite some time. And now with all these different options to spend your, you know, disposable income on, it's just kind of died down. McKinsey did a report a few years ago, and unfortunately for horse racing, the horse players are dying off quicker than we can replenish, like we can funnel new guests into. So it's a challenge that we have. So that's why we're
I
doing
think
some of
it's
these
a
events.
Republican phenomenon. They call that report.
So we do like to do these events to draw larger crowds and get them exposed. You know, the folks that we had a third party come in and do the beer tasting. They absolutely want to do something similar while horse racing is going on, so that we can draw a crowd of people that may not necessarily come to the track, observe it, and if we can just, again, capture a small percentage of them to get into it. And even the quarter horse meet, when we've had events like, quarter horse is even less popular than thoroughbred. Thoroughbred's popular in the woods. Quarter horse, not so much. And that's a very isolated crowd. You have to go out to like Oklahoma and Texas and New Mexico.
Yeah, and the track below Denver is pretty good.
Yeah. And so, but the locals here in New Orleans, they're not big quarter horse
Right.
fans.
So less-
But when they watch them and you hear these horses literally thundering down the track, you're on the apron and you hear it, it's pretty impressive, to say the least.
Well, and they're good sturdy horses. I mean, I don't, you know, the New York Times series about, they did earlier in the year on how they were handling thoroughbreds. I mean, yeah, that was unsettling, you know.
Yeah, the story that came out, that was unsettling. And there are tracks that
And I'm
are
sure
known-
there are a number of different views, that's all, you know, those, any kind of things like that, but just, you know. It
and-
certainly made thoroughbreds look like a very fragile breed.
Yeah.
So,
And they're-
quarter horses are sturdy in my experience, I mean, that's,
Yeah, they're sprinters.
yeah, those
They
are
run,
good workhorses, yeah.
you
there's
know,
not-
a quarter of a mile at the most.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that story came out. There, quite frankly, there's tracks that do better job than others. And
Right.
it's something that we take pride in. And, you know, for what it's worth, we're certified by the NRTA. The National Racing Thoroughbred Association comes in and they certify and say, look, here's a track that has some best demonstrated practices for people to use. And we take it seriously.
No, I think that's important. I mean, they rated tracks all throughout the country, and as I remember, we looked, you know, we were not nowhere near the bottom, some of the.
Yeah,
Yeah, all of Louisiana, they broke it up by state, and Louisiana ranks
Right.
fairly high when it comes to safety overall.
And I would, and this is me, I might be a little biased in it, but by far, comparing ourselves to the other three tracks in the state,
Well, I hope so, yeah.
I think we do a better job in that regard.
Well, and, you know, and this isn't to put sugar in your coffee, but I mean, I think clearly Churchill Downs is an established operator, and we've had some interesting years in the history of this track in terms of interest and focus of ownership, and, you know, there's a number of years I represented the parimutuel clerk, so I got to know,
Really?
you know, way too much about the track for a while, yeah. they had a little, little local that came into our local, the service employees, Local 100. So I negotiated a couple of contracts until it was just, it was untenable for them. And it's all, you know how labor relations work on the track, it's all voluntary recognition. So essentially, when they didn't have their act together, you're going to bargain. It's one of those, well, you guys want to do something crazy, like see if you get trampled in a strike, or because they, Jefferson Downs, they took the parimutuel clerks way before I took them over, did strike and lost completely, just were obliterated from that. And all of them came to work over here at Fairgrounds. So
But
yeah,
that track closed down, right?
yeah, Jefferson Downs long gone now.
It's a subdivision now.
Yeah, so I mean, and it started to look like this was a real estate play, not a track. At least in the end of when I was, associated with it. And Churchill Downs has, a good reputation. And,
I saw one of our tellers downstairs. I think he's one of your regulars. Chris? Champagne?
Oh, sure, Chris,
I saw him on my
he
way.
thinks that's his chair. I didn't know he worked over at your place.
Yeah,
But,
Chris has been working.
I saw him today and I asked him, 41 years. He's been a teller at the Fairgrounds.
Now,
well,
he did.
I never put two and two together. I'm sure he was one of my members back when too. But I
And
never,
he has a play too, right?
Yeah,
well, and that's how I knew him. Is he's got these plays on assignment. I don't know if any of them's ever sold here, but well, that puts a lot of the pieces together.
There you go.
We just found out the other day. I mean, so I've been running this for 14 months. And there's a small list of people who, for some reason, going back to previous ownership, always got a free cup of coffee. And I said, well, who in the world could that be? Because pretty much, I don't know anything about it. I didn't. That's news to me. And one of them turned out to be Chris. So, what is it? The more you're here, the more you just come up and say, this one's on me. So, he's back with the rest of the ranks now. It's all, it's all an easy
It's
thing.
an interesting business strategy.
Now that I know he was working over there, it puts those two pieces together for me more. But no, just kidding about that. But, well, fascinating. But yeah, and we thought, when the season is going, you have a lot of people working there.
Yeah,
On the back track as well, and the parimutuel clerks were good
Yeah.
size, but
we bring
track
on
personnel is huge.
Yeah, we employ, just to put on the show, on the racing side, we employ 300 plus. And then the backside workers who work for the owners and trainers
Right.
are separate, and there's probably 600.
Yeah, I assumed it had to be over 500.
Yeah, so it does, it brings a lot of folks in. And, it's pretty amazing when you start to look at the economic impact that horse racing has, even though it's come on hard times with the guests and whatnot. But when you take a look at the owners and trainers and everybody that works for the owners and trainers, and they're making a living and making salaries, and
Absolutely.
it's a huge economic impact. And we were just talking, we haven't done a study in a while,
Probably a decade.
and we need to probably have UNO come in and third party come in and do another economic impact study for us. So I don't want to reference something that's been a decade ago. So
Yeah, but I mean, even so, it's 50 years ago, tracks were, other than Kentucky Derby or something, those were just small county fair operations almost. So the industry got large, and now it may be in a little bit of a slump, looking for a way to find that younger demographic again, like so many businesses are.
Become retro chic.
Yeah, right. Well, and there's some of that. Let me tell you, my daughter and all her friends, all Best family, a lot of Best families in Arkansas, whatever, they all, come down for Thanksgiving. And my daughter started running them out in the afternoon. They all started going to the opening day, and she and her buddies, and she's 28 years old, they all dress up, and I see all the pictures on Facebook. So if y'all lock into that demographic, that's hot,
Yeah.
But
It's very, you're not going to see that every day. And
No.
we have the Derby is another day where people
But at least
dress
you got
up.
opening day, that's a good buzz.
Yep.
I mean, they clearly
Yeah.
have a ball, and
It's, yeah, Thanksgiving's pretty traditional, but you still have a very diverse crowd that shows up because you've got an apron crowd that is more, what would be a good word? It's
$2 bidders?
yeah, $2 bidders.
Or railbirds?
But they're
Yeah, railbirds.
no, but during Thanksgiving Day, they
Oh, on Thanksgiving Day,
they
yeah.
dress up and a little more eclectic than the traditional dress and.
well, that's, you want that, you've got to want that, that's great.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's really cool, and again, on the Starlight Racing Night, that's another where you just see so many different folks that show up. And
Now, what are the hours you race on the Starlight?
our first post is 5 o'clock,
Okay,
and we are.
which is dark now.
Yeah, our last race runs around 9:30.
Okay, so that's a good amount of entertainment. yeah.
Yep, and then we have, again, like I said, we have the live band that we have kickoff around 7 o'clock, 7:30, and we go ahead and play, they play until 10:30 at night in the clubhouse, and then we have a DJ in the Miller Beer Tent, and they play until about 10 o'clock, and I mean, it's one thing that's interesting, the Miller Beer Tent, when the races are done, people leave. So the DJ didn't play much after,
Right.
after the racing's done.
Right.
And then, but the band will hold a crowd for a little bit longer because they, like I said, some of these bands that we bring and just have a local, their beats, I guess.
Absolutely. What about, we were talking about the skeletons that were uncovered here with the telephone wires that were clearly not a phone bank,
Yeah, they were
not the traditional phone bank. What kind of skeletons have y'all uncovered over there at the fairgrounds?
Skeletons. I don't know.
Architectural skeletons you're talking.
She's
No.
talking about, exotica here, in the same way we talked about Miss Daisy. I mean, there must be some great old stories about characters at the track.
Well, and they've actually written books.
Yeah.
About the characters and the physical plant, obviously, it's burned down twice.
Right.
And this one was rebuilt in the late 1990s. Is when it
Opened in
opened.
97.
97. So the physical plant is, some of those skeletons are no longer here because it burned down. But yeah, there's all kinds of, unique characters that have come up and,
Is there a history of the local track?
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Bob Rosler, who was the sports
Oh,
editor of the
sure,
Times-Picayune
sure,
for many
okay.
decades. He wrote one that came out right before the fire, so probably 95 or 96. That's the most recent one. But that's probably the most exhaustive history that exists. And it's really well done. It's a great book.
Yeah, there's another book out there too. It's and it just talks about the different characters, but it actually hits Krantz and talks about the 97 fire, or not the 97.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that is that book.
It
was
does-
after
it
the
does
fire
cover.
because it opens with the fire. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they went ahead and raced that meet in a temporary facility. So, and then when Hurricane Katrina hit, they raced the meet up at Louisiana Downs and came back, and Jazz Fest ended up coming back in 2006, which was pretty
Amazing.
an astronomical,
Mhm.
event. So,
Yeah.
and that's another thing.
Vance was a tough lady.
What do they admit to in these books about the mob?
What do they? I'm not sure I'm going to comment on that, but I don't know if any of that's true, but no,
I think that says it all. Speaking of your communications director. Not in Louisiana, pretty sure of that. We don't know about what's happening up there in New York.
I don't know. That's a good question because
What other Stump the Stars questions do you have?
How about that union organizing over there? What was that about?
Yeah.
Union organized what?
That sounds like a question for him.
That after it didn't last past the fire. I mean, that was a good reason.
We haven't
They
been,
weren't working, so.
Yeah.
that's the problem with memory too long.
Hmm.
But, I think the last contract I bargained over there was right before that. So they just never, years go by, that was 15, 17 years ago, so.
When it burned down, didn't it receive public funds to rebuild?
I'm not positive about that. I thought,
He actually had a lot of trouble financing the rebuild.
yeah,
I
I
just
thought
assumed it was insurance.
it
Yeah, I
insurance.
think it
and-
was insurance.
I'm not
It
sure
took them a
yet.
long time. They, you know, because remember, there was all that speculation at that, whether or not he was gonna try to redevelop it as residential instead of coming back with the tracks.
Hmm.
It was really more that, whether he was gonna pocket the insurance money and
Well,
not
that's what they
rebuild.
did with Jefferson Downs. It's
Exactly.
Gabriel Downs out in Kenner now.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I don't recall ever reading or hearing about him getting public money to build that.
Yeah, I don't remember that
I'm
either.
not sure, you know.
They may have gotten, you know,
bankruptcy, so.
Dick Busey may have gotten some, you know, nonprofit bond money in some way, or some bond money to help build it.
I guess it was 4 years though that it took. The fire was December '93.
No, it took
And the
forever.
reopening was Thanksgiving '97, so
Exactly.
just under 4 years. Which I don't know if that's a long time or not when you consider
See,
how big
at
the
the time, it
facility
seemed
is.
to be, because the
Doesn't
first
seem
couple
that
of
bad
years,
for-
that was, you know, I remember a lot of speculation, but that was.
Well, it's a type of structure too, you know, they can, it's amazing what they can put up now. I think the technology is a little more advanced. They can put some rather large buildings up in quick order.
Yeah.
Are you have plans for expansion ever?
Not at this time. You know, we're you know, in the facility, I
Pretty
think
fixed
it's,
footprint of this one.
yeah, I think the facility is the right size. And if you come, honestly, if you come on a Thursday or a Wednesday, the crowd's not there. I mean, you look and there's a lot of empty seats, and it's.
What is the capacity?
Saturdays is our biggest capacity. Starlight Racing.
And how many,
obviously.
what is the full capacity?
Oh, the full capacity? We can get,
And I would say for our biggest crowd, we probably have in the vicinity of 10,000.
Okay.
But that's general admission, and most of those people, well, not most of them, but a lot of them are standing outside
Sure.
in the paddock and on the apron. As far as actual seats, you know, it probably doesn't seat more than a couple thousand. You know, I think most of those people are standing general admission or wandering around.
yeah, probably, I would say it does reach a couple thousand, because in the clubhouse, you've got the boxes, and then you got the grandstand seats, and then we
Yeah,
can
the
seat
dining room,
800
too.
people in the clubhouse.
Oh, okay, well.
So, and then you have the suites, and you can get 20 people per at least in there. So it probably does add up to at least 2,500.
Do you ever shut down for any period of time?
Completely, well, our live race meet, you know, we have an off-track betting facility when we're not racing live. So, but the thoroughbred meet goes from Thanksgiving until the end of March.
Right.
And then we have a 10, well, it depends, we're gonna have a 14-day quarter horse meet. It goes over 3 weekends, and so it's quick, it's a, you know.
And that's in the late spring?
What's that?
When is that?
That's actually in the
In
summertime.
the summer.
And yeah, we had it in August this year, and at their request, actually. So it was pretty warm when they race. But we've had it in both in August and September, and I think next meet will be a crossover. It's the tail end of August, and it goes into the first weekend of September. Is what we've got planned right now.
You rent out the space, though sometimes groups use it, but don't they?
Yeah, we use that space. We got a great space up there, and you know, whether it be Susan Guidry's used it for community meetings because of the grandstand.
Well, in these neighborhood
works.
groups, some of them meet there.
Yep.
Their
Over St.
annual
John's.
events there or
Yeah.
something.
Desay uses it, Fairgrounds Triangle. They haven't used it that much, but they use it on occasion. But we're open. We're gonna continue to do things. I mean, I know Folk Group St. John has their membership meeting, their monthly membership meeting that.
Church over here.
Well, no, they have a membership meeting.
Oh,
That they have,
that's
that's the board meeting
Oh, okay.
that they have over there. So they have 2 meetings a month. And that's just to try to spur people to join and whatnot. So we have that over in the Derby building for them. But then we obviously sell it out. We do some we just, it's like a donation. We donate the space. Like Morris Jeff High School uses the space. We don't charge them anything. They bring their own stuff in, but then we all obviously sell it. People that are willing to pay to have an event. We decked it out last year in some Christmas decor. We have Christmas decor this year. It's a little less over the top than it was last year. I think it looks better this year, personally, but we did. You know, Tulane came out. They had a huge event. Ended up having 700 people for. I don't know if it was Christmas related, but kind of holiday themed event there. So yeah, we have some great spaces too for smaller groups. We have a suite that our group sales team sells on their own. We just redid a room. I say just a few months back. It's called the Phoenix Room, and it sits on the 3rd level, and it basically overlooks the finish line. And so we redid that. That's a great little room. Then we have the steaks room downstairs that we rent out on occasion. So yeah, and the Derby, on Thanksgiving Day, we have a separate little Thanksgiving meal in the 2nd floor of the Derby building, and that gets sold out. It's a great little place. It's got the balcony that overlooks the track, and people really enjoy it.
How many tracks does Churchill Downs own now?
4. They own the fairgrounds, and obviously Churchill Downs in Louisville, Arlington Park in Arlington, Illinois, and Calder Race Course right outside Miami.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Those are the 4 tracks, and then they own us in Calder have slots at the facilities. Churchill and Arlington does not, and they now own 2 separate casinos in Mississippi. One in Greenville, Mississippi, called Harlow's, and one in Vicksburg, Mississippi, called Riverwalk. So they also own Twin Spires, which is the online. You know, pari-mutuel is legal to bet online. And so they own Twin Spires, which does a pretty good percentage of overall handle in the United States right now. They own United Tote too, which is the totes you give them the betting devices, and it handles all the pari-mutuel and calculates the winnings and whatnot. So they've diversified over the years, and I think it's worked pretty well for them.
Now, is racing in California stronger than it is in the rest of the country, or weaker? I mean, you hear about all these. My dad was from California, so I used to hear about all the tracks. I don't know.
They got some pretty incredible tracks out there. Del Mar, I love Del Mar myself. It's unique. Just the it's got that San Diego flavor to it.
I'd say the quality of their horses is higher than we see in this part of the country.
Oh, okay.
But they have different struggles from what we have in terms of finding enough horses. The horse population isn't as vast there, so they have races with short fields. The bettors don't like that. So they struggle with things like that. There's just not enough people breeding horses, and there aren't enough horse farms out on the West Coast to really support the number of tracks that they have.
These horse breeders just moved around the country, but that's probably wrong. Yeah.
Some of them rotate through. They'll I guess California kind of stays that way.
Yeah.
But you do have the northern, southern circuit here where you might have some horses that run in New York with their slot revenue towards purses. Their purses are crazy right now. So you have less, but there's some trainers that would go northeast and come down south or go to Gulfstream Park during the winter. Obviously, we get some people from Illinois and Kentucky to come down. We've done a good job. Eric and Jason and crew have done a good job of recruiting some new stables in this year. It seems that we're getting more and more from Texas. So
Now, the Barbelo used to have a lot of tracks, right? The one in Bossier and Oak Lawn or whatever. Did he
have to get rid of all those tracks? The guy used to own the 49ers and the big,
He owned Louisiana Downs, I know that, in
Yeah,
Shreveport
right.
in the 80s. But I don't know why,
No, I hadn't
why he
heard
gave
it.
up it, but I don't know.
well, he had his own set of problems, I think.
And he owned one up in Vermont, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Oak Lawn in Arkansas used to be a big thing when I was living there. Boy, people go
Well, it's
down
still,
there.
that's one of those places where people still go for live racing. It's,
Oh, okay,
you know, it's kind of a resort community and it's a high quality season and people still show up every day for live racing in Oakland.
Oh,
Or Hot Springs,
fantastic,
I
I'm
should
glad
say.
to hear it. Do they do slots up there as well? I would doubt it.
They have what they call instant racing.
Instant racing, it's a form, they're not the same by any means, but it looks like a slot machine, but what it does is the winning symbols are based off historic racing. So it pulls from us, you know, they pay for, you know, they'll pay us for our fee. So we'll sell them historical data. We don't get a lot for it, but they sell it, and it when you select, you're picking horses essentially, and if your horse wins, then you get the winning symbols. It's pretty interesting, and you can go out, if you Google instant racing, they'll pull up and you can kind of go through. And actually, I think one of the sites kind of shows you how it works. It's not the same as a traditional slot player wouldn't necessarily do it. Oaklawn and their proximity right now, they don't have the competition, so they can get
They can
on.
do whatever it is. You have any questions at all? I've learned about as much as I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been, I've been only once really. I'm born and raised here. We never really, my family was never into it, but YLC had an event there.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was my first exposure to it. I brought a friend and we had a great time, so.
Well, they usually do the Starlight
Okay,
racing.
so that must have been one of those nights.
So-
Yeah. There was a band and there
Yeah.
was a lot of great food and, like you said, we looked down and like, I won a few times and I didn't win a lot of money, or maybe a couple of dollars, like you said, but, yeah, it was really fascinating, so.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
cool experience. I mean, I've got friends that, you know, they try to make every one of them. It's cool, and that's the thing about it. You got to space it correctly. And again, this is, you know, we've got one on December 28th, January 18th, February 1st, February 22nd, March 1st, 8th, and 15th. So we kind of fit everything. We're doing one the Friday before Super Bowl. I don't know. You know, you're going to have a large group of people down here. And we did the same thing for the Final Four. And we were very lucky that University of Kentucky and University of Louisville were in the Final
Yeah,
Four.
that's
Like horse country
Yeah.
gets into the Final Four. And Syracuse came in pretty close. And that would have just been another land gap for us. So that worked out really well. We had a Friday night racing there. Actually, that day we ran 18 races.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
We had a rain out the week before, and we're in a position where by law you have to pay out your purse money to you can only have 1 day's worth of purses left in your account when you end your meeting. So we were really in a pickle, and we had to run those races, and we doubled up, and most of the jockeys were all for it, but that was a long day for sure. I don't think we're going to be having too many of those, but just
You wouldn't want the last race to be, you know, Alicia and I jockeying to see who got there first or something like that.
Well, before I forget, just so you know, the YLC is doing that event again
Okay.
for the night racing in January.
Oh, great,
I
great.
think you
I
said
was really
January 18th.
impressed, I mean, because again, it being my first time and my friend's first time being there, there was a guy on site who was, who gave us like
Tips.
the tips, how to do.
exactly.
What they do?
That's his
I know, when
stuff.
I saw you, you looked familiar.
He actually
that was-
dresses up.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a hat or something, but anyway, but I mean, to me, it was great, great, like, user-friendly service that you offer, to you know,
Well, we
tell
have
people
different-
understand like how you choose. I mean, you can choose it by some, you know, liking the name, but there are actually a lot of like small things you can pay attention to in the columns that help you figure out, you know, what you need to know to make an educated guess or bet, you know. So
Yeah.
that was exciting. Yeah.
I'm just embarrassed though, because I'm putting together the pieces. A few minutes ago, you said that you didn't win any money, and now we come to find out that I'm the person who helped
I
you.
didn't win a little bit of
You
money.
taught her
I didn't
everything
bet a
she
lot of
knew.
money.
But she won, she just didn't win a lot.
Okay.
Because I didn't bet a lot of money, yeah, so, and a lot of people.
That's not bad. Well, at least you won something, that's good.
I have it's just what they do. I have a friend that bets $1 to win on every horse, every race. So he can say.
Well, that's a system, I think they talk,
That,
that's
yeah,
a
it's
system.
a system. I don't think he does real well.
Yeah, not the best system I've ever heard of,
When he gets lucky and it's at 60 to 1, it's okay, but it doesn't work.
But everybody's got a story of who lived here, you know. I know the first time I went was with some people from my high school, and I went with this woman who swore the whole time to all of us she went to the track all the time, went with her folks, and never lost. She always at least made parking money, made her meal money, never lost. She lost the time I went there. Yeah. And then you say, ooh, I got some bad luck here. I better just watch the horses and keep stepping. But,
Dang, that one time.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine.
yeah, that's right, you know. But I'm also one of these guys who I can go through, change planes, go to Las Vegas, win or whatever, and, you know, never even tempted to put it, because I'd just rather walk in the street, throw the money in the street. That's about my same chance of winning right there, so at least I know who gets the money. Well, I really enjoyed this. I'm sorry we didn't have more. We'll, Jim and I will work on a plan next time, and
Oh, it's
we'll
cool.
get him to wear the hat. We'll say we're going to teach people how to do racing.
Hey,
We'll have this other guy
That's
talk
what we
about
gotta do, yeah.
and have this other guy talk about what might happen in the season or something like that. But
well, I'm
This was
curious
good to know.
about
Go ahead.
some of your, some of the events you have planned. Like, of course, I'm here sort of representing Langston Hughes to find out what type of community partnerships you have. But I'm also on the Ben Franklin High School Alumni Board, and we're trying to schedule a Christmas event. And then I'm also working with and then we also have a sponsor for one of our big annual fundraisers, who's a winery, and is always looking for ways to highlight their wine. So I'm just curious, like, where do you plug in to get information about how to connect to the fairgrounds on these different matters, whether it's scheduling the event or whether it's like, you know, showing your having your wine tasted at an event, or, you know, or other community partnerships.
Well, you know, there's a couple different ways, and I've got a card. I'll give you my card, and I'm going to ultimately get you in touch with Mary Kay Kern, who kind of oversees what's available in our space for events like this. And again, like I said, one thing that we're very open to is if it's for a charitable cause, we work with, you know, we have some events where we're just trying to cover our costs, and we move on. But if you have, like this winery, you have a winery that raises money somehow?
Well, we have a winery that's, it's a family foundation that owns a vineyard. And they're a big donor of ours, and in return, well, at Edible Schoolyard, I actually work for Edible Schoolyard, and we have gardens at a number of schools, including the garden.
You're not growing grapes there, though, are you?
Well, actually, we are.
Oh, you are?
Green,
Okay.
Samuel J. Green. And so, like, we have this big, huge fundraiser, you know, where we have like chefs come in and set up in the fourth of an acre garden, or the acre garden, third of an acre garden that we have at Green. And this winery is there. It's Presskill Wines, and so it's usually a very high-end wine, and for $40, people get to come in and have all this great food and like this wine that costs $40 a bottle. And so in return, we're trying to help them like get exposure. I mean, they're interested in getting on different wine lists and things like that. And so that's what I was thinking. Like they've done so much for us.
You can start, that project can start through me. And then ultimately you'll be talking to Craig Dennison to see. And we kind of lock and load in the the wine that we buy. But we're open to stuff like that, and I'll get
Yeah,
you
but they've
in touch.
helped us so much, and so it's, thinking about like how we could like help them as well.
Yeah, you know, we used some parking, over at Langston Hughes for the ostrich and camel
No.
race. So, yeah, so.
So at least maybe if they do that again, you'll know when it happens.
they're-
Yeah, I
Put
know.
on
Like,
the email list and send me a note.
We-
Let's
we
go
had
to
our-
that.
Yeah, we had our employees park, over there, and it's just a quick shot. I mean,
Yeah.
You could shuttle them through kind of the backside and,
Right.
and get them to the property, so that worked out extremely well. I made a small donation,
Okay,
And-
yeah.
so,
And I know they benefit
So they're
from
already
the,
partner.
yeah, and actually when the Jazz Fest every year, I mean, they raise like gobs of money, you know, with parking, you know,
Oh,
Langston
okay.
Hughes, that's their big annual fundraiser.
yeah, I think that, you know, Cabrini, I know, running.
I hate to think of how many people you raise money for just by having just.
Well, we got a great partnership with the Jazz and Heritage Festival Foundation too, and Quint Davis and his group. It's quite an experience. I mean, I know a lot of.
They're in there for weeks, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah, they come
It takes
in.
forever to set that thing up.
Actually, and
We
it's,
start seeing them come here when they, I mean, that's how we could figure it out. I never.
yeah, their crew, yep. They come in the day, well, we actually start letting them in the infield and do some basic work before the meet ends.
Yeah.
But the
Oh.
day our meet ends, it's like completely turned over to them, they take over, and then they're cleared out about the end of May is when they're cleared out. So 2 full months,
Well, that's good business too.
they're
And
here.
they do, I mean, they do a wild amount of business. I've never, you know, it's one of those things where it didn't exist when I got out of high school, so it must be for tourists. This is the way I always saw it. When did you get out of Franklin?
89, I was in the last class to graduate from the old building.
Oh, okay.
And I lived in Gentilly, that's the thing that burns me up. I lived in Gentilly, so I took 3 buses to get to that school, and now, like, it's right down the street from our house. But it's.
Yeah, I graduated a couple years before you.
Okay,
My
okay.
daughter graduated, our daughter graduated in, I don't know, 90 sometime, so,
Okay, cool,
yeah. No, way before it got to UNO, but,
yeah,
in Carrollton.
yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So you're gonna give her your card, and I'll take your
Yeah.
card too, and we'll get these schedules out, and
Appreciate that.
we ought to talk more about, certainly, you know, our spaces here. If you ever get tired of looking at the back of the track, you can come meet over here with your team.
Well, I pop in here a lot of mornings too, so now I know your face.
Well, you don't see me here a lot of mornings,
But
yeah, but when you do,
I'm gonna ask to be put on that do not charge list.
that list doesn't exist.
I was actually,
But it took me 13 months to root it out.
I'll just come in and say, I'm Christian Payne, I wanna come.
Yeah, Chris, have you